Cast on this Sunday evening. Tonight, we have my co-host, Peter Ray Ellison.
Good evening, everyone.
And a big welcome back to Laura Mauro.
Hello, good evening.
How's things, Laura?
Yeah, pretty good, thank you very much. Yeah, all being well since the last time I saw you all.
Yeah, we were trying to figure out how long that was. That would have been just before lockdown.
Yeah, it was sometime between the beginning of lockdown and last year. I forget when exactly, but it's been a while, isn't it?
It's been a while.
It was before you started your new job, and as soon as Kelly, you got that, you're doing that now, are you? We should invite you onto the podcast again, and this will actually talk about writing, not just about wrestling.
That's what we talked about last time. We didn't talk about anything else that we were meant to talk about. We just talked about wrestling.
I'm not precluding the possibility that we may end up talking about wrestling again, but you know.
Well, it was at Wales.
Wait a minute, actually.
I was at Wales Comic Con yesterday, and there was a lot of wrestling stars there. AEW wrestling
at Comic Con.
At Wales Comic Con.
Yeah, to be honest, they do actually have a fair few wrestlers on these conventions. To be fair,
that's pretty cool. Yeah, I remember there was one in what was it? I want to say it was Birmingham last year sometime, and they had some classic wrestlers. But AEW is a cool one because that's really quite relevant and quite new. So
for the complete Philistine here, what is AEW? Because I haven't got a clue.
So it's All Elite Wrestling. It was founded by, it all depends on how much wrestling you know, I guess, but Cody Rhodes is in Dustin Rhodes' Goldust's younger brother. The Young Bucks, who are famous for mostly famous for New Japan Pro Wrestling, but also Ring of Honor. Kenny Omega, who again, Ring of Honor, New Japan Pro Wrestling. They all got together and they founded All Elite Wrestling, which was supposed to be like the anti-WWE. It's, a popular American wrestling organization, but their ethos was supposed to be different to WWE. For the most part, they have been, but I would definitely recommend it to people who are wrestling fans. It's my favorite promotion at the moment, actually. Okay,
so how is it different to WWE? Because I've not watched wrestling for 20 years or thereabouts.
WWE has, well, I say it's changed. It hasn't. But I think what I like about AEW is it's more it's obviously there's a commercial aspect. There will always be a commercial aspect, but you get the feeling that that AEW cares more about the actual wrestling as opposed to the commercial side of it as much. WWE feels very much like a commercial product that's designed to appeal to as many people as possible, whereas I feel like AEW is kind of like a wrestling fans federation, I guess.
So I've got something that you'll be super impressed by, and you probably wouldn't have known about the last time we talked. But so you know Bret Hart, the wrestler, yeah. Okay.
Of course, yeah.
So Bret the Hitman Hart, one of my favorite wrestlers of all time. Like when I used to be into wrestling when I was a kid, Bret the Hitman Hart was, he was my wrestler. He was just, he was always the one, to the point where I went to see him fight in the Ulster Hall in Belfast. It was the day John Candy died as well, which I remember. But we went and I ran down to the front when he was coming down to sort of give us his glasses away. He gave them to sort of a person beside me, and I was gutted because obviously it wasn't me. But my 40th birthday last July, and my friend he was sitting there talking to me because he does Brazilian jiu-jitsu and stuff, and he was talking to me about sort of this story about some guy he knew and somebody in a wheelchair and blah blah blah, and he was like, "Oh, I can show you a video if you want. You can show you a video of this guy fighting and stuff." And I was like, "Oh, okay, yeah, cool, man." And he showed me this video. And I opened it up, and it was Bret the Hitman Hart, and I'm just like, "What? That's Bret Hart." And then I pressed play, and then it was Bret Hart talking to me, and then I was just like, "Oh no, he's gone and got me. He's gone and got me." One of those things. So he literally, all he did is he talked. It was amazing, man. He talked to me about sort of when they came to fight in Belfast, and how you've always had my back, and now I've got your back, and it was so good of you to sort of let that person have my shades and stuff. And then at the end of it, he held up some shades, signed, and then my mate just produced these shades from underneath his coat and gave them me, signed by
That's
Bret the
so
Hitman Hart.
cool.
And I was like, oh my god, I literally cried
That
like
is
a
the
baby.
best present. Oh my god, your friend is fantastic.
I know.
What a great gift.
I literally cried. I
I
cried
would have.
and proceeded to
God.
cry for the rest of the night and stuff because I was just like, that's the most heartfelt, best gift anybody
Yeah.
has ever given to me ever.
That really is. Oh, I mean, just the thought that's gone into that as well. I mean, you know, quite aside from the fact that it's Bret fucking Hitman Hart, but you know, the thought and the that's that 10 out of 10.
Yeah,
Absolute
big
10
time.
out of
Like
10
I
for
was
that.
absolutely. I've never like. Thing is, he's got game for it. Cause so he's got game for doing stuff like that. Cause he, you know, I buy him something every year, Christmas, birthdays, and stuff like that. He gets something like he wants, you know, because he, you know, I don't think his missus sort of buys him sort of like shirts and things that he doesn't really want, and I buy him the nerdy things that he needs and wants and stuff. But it's literally just a case of what do you want, or what do you not have, and then I just sort of kind of get him. But he's really good. Like on 3 occasions, he's done something similar where he's sort of thought about something from my childhood and then got it for like. So one example was, I used to go to a place called the Abbey Centre in Newton Abbey in Belfast, near Belfast, and we used to go past this little toy store, and it always had this sort of Soundwave transformer.
Oh, Transformers.
Yeah,
Yes.
transformer,
Oh, yeah.
and I always wanted that Soundwave transformer. And it was just something like my mum would never let us go into the shop. She's like, "No, you've got too many toys already. I could never get that Soundwave." And then one day it gone, so I never got it. And then one day for Christmas, he got me the Soundwave toy. Like I'm obviously in my 30s and stuff, and he just produced the Soundwave toy, and I was like, "Oh man, no way! That's absolutely
superb.
amazing." And then the other one he did for me as well. So I'm into my Warhammer and stuff like that. And the first ever painted miniature I had was a Lehman Russ Rogue Trader edition Lehman Russ. So like really small but well painted. He had his wolves and stuff. And my dog chewed it up when I was a
Oh,
kid.
no.
And I lost it. So it was my first ever model, and it was the first one that got destroyed as well. And he found, like, obviously not painted, but he found on eBay an old version of it and stuff. So he got me the sort of he got me Liram Russ, the metal version of it, and I painted him up and stuff, and I was just like, yeah, so he's very good as a friend for gifts like that. You know, these really sort of kind of thoughtful ones that
Yeah.
put you to shame because you know
'Cause you
you're
gotta
not
do
doing
it
the
back.
same.
Yeah,
I just
yeah.
bought him some Star Wars stuff and things like that, and he's just like, you know, that time when you were 10 years old and you really wanted that and you didn't get it, and it's like, well, here you go, bro. And I'm just like, oh man.
Honestly though, like I'm a little bit like that, and the present is the giving it a lot of the time. Like, you know, you don't necessarily expect it back, but being able to do that and getting the reaction, that is the gift. Like,
Oh, yeah, I
knowing
love
that
it.
your gift hit, you know, that's
Yeah.
that is part of the joy. Your
yeah.
appreciation is a gift in itself, definitely.
Yeah, it's just I think because he's you know, he's a big Irish fella, and yeah, I think, you know, his mate of 30 odd years, 30, I think, how long have we known each other? Oh, 36 years or something now, but he's crying in front of him, and he's just like, all right, man, it's okay.
Hold it together.
It's just a cameo. I'm just like, oh, it's the best thing you've ever done for me, man. Wow, absolutely amazing. So yeah, I've got the video still, and I've got the sunglasses just over there and stuff, and it's just like,
Sunglasses are so
wow,
cool.
just like amazing.
My other half is he's a huge Transformers fan. Like, he's got a collection of, you talk about hundreds of Transformers. He's a huge Transformers nerd. Actually, funny enough, so I watched it as a kid, you know, as you do, like growing up in the 80s. I watched Transformers as a kid, but I never really got hugely into it. He was very into it. And he came up to me with this comic one day, and he went, "You have to read this comic." And it was a Transformers comic. And I was like, "Really? You really want me to read Transformers comic?" He went, No. Just read the comic. So I was like, fine, okay, I'll pick the comic up, I'll read it. And oh my God, it is the best comic I've ever read. It more than meets the eye. James Roberts was the writer.
Okay.
And it is just, it redefined comics for me. It really did. Like, you know, I've always been into manga, you know, Japanese kind of, I guess Japanese comics, if you want to put it a certain way, but Western comics never really got me in the same way. But this, it really did change the way I see comics and change the way I saw Transformers as well. It's just the best comic I've ever read. So I would recommend it to all Transformers fans, or even if you're not a Transformers fan.
What's it called again?
It was originally called More Than Meets the Eye, but it then changed its name to Lost Light.
Okay.
And it's like a space, I guess like a space opera kind of. It's a space adventure, but it's got a sense of humour comparable to Red Dwarf, which I think is what really makes. The writer is British. Is James Roberts is an English writer, and the British sense of humour really shines through in it, which is part of the joy of it, I think.
Okay.
But it's just a really good comic as well.
Yeah, well, that's it. I love the '80s Transformers. I still haven't got over the death. The death of Optimus Prime.
Who has?
As a child, that's really sort of like that moment when he turns grey. You're just like, what's happening?
Do you remember in the first 10 minutes of the Transformers movie, and about 50? It was like Game of Thrones. Like everyone died in the first 10 minutes.
It's like
No, go on.
As a child, you're going, you don't expect that, and I'm trying to think when it was released. I would have been pretty young.
It was released on the day that I was born.
Really? Wow. So yeah,
8th of August 1986.
Yeah, so I was 5 years old when I watched that, and I'm thinking, oh, I love these guys, and then suddenly, Ironhide's being blown. He's dead, and I'm like, what the hell's going on? And then bloody Optimus Prime turns grey and dies, and you're just like. Apparently they did it just to sell toys because they wanted to sell more toys.
Generation 2.
And I was just
Rodimus Prime. Optimus is old hat. It's Rodimus now.
Yeah, Rodimus Prime. Oh god.
Yeah.
And it's just this ruining childhoods.
The 80s was particularly brutal for cartoons, though, wasn't it? But I guess part of it was because there was a kind of we've got to sell more. Yes, that's literally what I was thinking.
Everybody brings up Watership Down. It's so tragic.
That film scarred me for life.
Apparently it wasn't meant to be a children's film.
It isn't. It isn't. When you read the book, I mean, that book is the book that turned me into a writer 100%. It is the formative text for me, but it is not for kids. It is definitely not for kids. It's the Odyssey with rabbits. It isn't for kids in any way. And I think the mistake if it was parents looking at it going, oh, bunnies, that must be a great film for the kids. No, don't do that.
No, bunnies, cartoon. It's a film for kids.
Yeah, exactly.
No.
God, no.
Yeah,
God, no.
I think we just me and my brother and sister quite like the seagull.
Because he swore, didn't he?
Yeah, the seagull, quite like the seagull. But yeah, I've still if I think about Watership Down, my first sort of thought is that fight in the tunnel where they're literally taking chunks out of each other and there's blood everywhere. Yeah. And I'm pretty sure we were only 6-7 years old when we were watching that.
Yeah. It was traumatic. It was a traumatic experience. I don't know what that generation of parents were thinking. Just sit the kids in front of the TV with a nice video. There we go.
Yeah, I don't think they care. My parents weren't too pretty much they knew I was scared of most things, so pretty much if I'd run off if I didn't want that. I used to hide behind a TV when Superman 3, when the woman gets turned into a robot in Superman 3.
That terrified me too.
Yeah, I used to hide behind the TV every time that happened. I wouldn't sort of run.
There's a reason why I got into science and technology to make sure that didn't happen.
Sometimes childhood trauma has good effects.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah. So, Laura, you're back on. What have you been up to? What's going on?
Oh, well, I mean, as Pete said earlier, I got a new job. Actually coming up to the end of my contract now, so I'm not totally sure where I will be at the end of the month. But I've been, a narrative designer for a video games company, which is a complete. I mean, I say it's a complete departure. I've been a writer for a long time, but never in this. This is a new. To write as a profession is new for me. To have it's my day job.
What's the difference between a writer and a narrative designer?
So a narrative designer, obviously I can't say this is how it works in all games companies because I've only ever worked for the one. So, but you kind of start from writing what they call a treatment, and that is just a blow by blow. I guess it's similar to if you're planning a story, but you write the story. That's one section of it. This is the story. Then you've got to write the script, and that involves setting out characters. It involves narrative arcs and making sure that your narrative arcs are all consistent. Then you've got the lore, which is a completely different section, and that all has to be contingent with your story, with your characters. Then obviously there's the element of putting it into the game, which is the bit that I had no experience with, and we use Unreal Engine, various companies will use different engines. So learning how to implement a script into a game engine was a completely new. I'm still not 100% confident at it, but it was a cool skill. It's a cool skill to learn. It's a cool thing to learn. I feel like a legitimate developer now. I can kind of do that.
Are you allowed to tell us what the game was, or?
It's hopefully going to be announced fairly soon, but I'm under wraps as to the game.
Damn you, NDAs.
Yeah, I know. I have to come back again. But I work for the company I work for is called Bonsai Collective, and it's sorry, my cat is photobombing me. It's a brand new. I say brand new. It's been around for a couple of years now, but this is the first game from that particular company. So I think it's going to be really exciting getting it out into the world, and I'm kind of nervous because, like, obviously, you're always nervous about reviews, aren't you? But I think because it is such a new thing for me to write this medium, I'm extra nervous. Like writing a game, and it's definitely a different animal. It's a different discipline. That's one thing I've learned. It's not the same as writing a book.
What tools did you use for writing the script for the game? Because I imagine you can't just chuck it on in Word and just shoot it off to the developers.
You would be surprised. So, I mean, my boss uses Scrivener a lot because it's very good for scripts, and I use Scrivener a little bit. But what I tended to do is, when I drafted it all in Word. So I just wrote it all in Word in a script format and just drafted it out. And then from there, you put it into what we use is something called CSV, which is just an Excel spreadsheet, basically.
Yeah.
And the Excel spreadsheet with a bit of coding wizardry, our programmers are fantastic. They have rigged it so that it uploads into the game engine. So that spreadsheet has got various things. It knows what character says it, how long it's got to be on the screen for, what the next line is, and so on and so forth. And it's all coded in, and that gets uploaded into. So actually writing it in Word and then transcribing it into Excel is not too tricky. It is. So I say other companies may do it completely differently.
Yeah.
But that's how we did it.
So this is you're very you're waiting for the game to come out and the reviews to come out and see how people feel about it all.
Yeah, I've done my job properly. Hopefully people will, enjoy it. The problem with games is people play them for different reasons as well. So it may be that people play that game and they're not interested in the story. They don't care about the story. They're in it for the game experience, which is valid. I get that. But I hope that there is a subsection of gamers who will play it and will engage with the story. Because I feel like I'm biased, obviously, but I do think it's a really good story. I mean, the story, when I joined the company, the overarching narrative had already been decided. So it isn't all my invention. The characters had already been decided. In a way, that's quite exciting because I'm getting to play with someone else's sandpit, I guess, in a way.
Yeah.
But bring my own take to it, which is interesting. I really enjoyed doing that. But I do think it's going to be a really good story. And I do think that if, I hope that people will engage with it, and I hope that people will get into the lore of it and the world that we've created, and really believe in it. That's something I hope for.
Yeah, I mean, like lore is never something we've really had to consider before in gameplay, but now with the narrative options increasing, there is a need for lore in video games now. So I mean, so how did you do that? Was that like using some sort of like intranet and internal wiki, or?
Yeah, it's interesting the way that the lore works. So obviously we're quite lucky that our game is it's a short and relatively linear game, so it's not as complex as it could be lore wise, but it is like keeping an encyclopedia, kind of like a master Google doc, kind of here are the locations, here are the characters, here's the narrative beats, this is all the stuff. And then, I mean, I'm quite fortunate in this particular project, most of it has been down to me. So I've only really had to refer to myself and not had to kind of manage other people too much and say, oh, here we're keeping all the lore in line. I can imagine that if we are lucky enough to get a second game, and if the project expands a little bit, I may need, or whoever writes it, if I don't, is going to need a team of a slightly bigger team to handle the lore, because things expand and things you can build a huge world and the gamer will only see a fraction of it, but we have to know everything, even if you don't. That's the complex thing. Like, one of the things that you get from publisher feedback is, well, how does this work? And it doesn't really matter too much that it isn't going to be in the game. Like, the player isn't going to necessarily find that out, but we have to know. We have to understand. Because if it ever does come up, it's got to be you know, it's got to
You
be
got an
consistent.
answer.
Exactly, yeah.
Has there ever been like a what's the word for it? Conflict between the narrative beats and the gameplay beats, so to speak.
Oh yeah, that comes up definitely there. I mean, the thing is, you're quite limited. So sometimes, you want to do a particular thing narrative-wise that, unfortunately, because of the limits, and when we say resources, that can mean anything from time, team members, the limitations of the software of the the engine that you're running, but you've just not got the resources to do it. So, for example, if we've got something that requires a complex cutscene, and your facial animations aren't rigged, well, then you can't show emotion via the faces, so you've got to find other ways, and that can be quite fun as well, because then you've got to do it through dialogue, but also music is a way that we've kind of thought, if you can't evoke emotion through expressions, then music is another good way. So it does force you to be creative. But yeah, definitely there are conflicts between what I would like to do narratively and what is possible. Definitely.
Do you have, like, so when you're writing the dialogue for the game, is it multiple option dialogue? So do you have to write different things, or?
Yeah, so we do have a limited amount of that. It's because it's a linear game. The dialogue options are really kind of for, I guess, not. I don't want to say for show, because they do illuminate certain things about the world, but it's not like when you're playing. I don't know if you've ever heard of the game Disco Elysium, for example, which is
Yes.
one of my absolute favorite games, and that is very much. I mean, I can't even fathom how they wrote that because all of the dialogue options do have a bearing on what happens and do have a bearing on. Whereas this is more, the dialogue options will always lead to the same story in the end, but you may get there a slightly different way, or you may learn different things about the character or the world that you're in. But that's tricky again. That's all down to coding. So it's down to, you normally have, like, if you've got your Excel spreadsheet, you've got line A leads to line B, leads to line C, leads to line D, right? So that's nice and easy to program. But if you've got a dialogue option, you've got to go, okay, if true, then this leads to that. But then that also, so you've kind of got this branching, it becomes more complex to do that. So, and then of course you've got to write 2 lines of dialogue for each option. And yeah, it can be complicated, but it's also quite fun to kind of imagine the way that your character might respond in different moods or in different,
Yeah.
Has kind of working remotely due to COVID and everything had any impact on how you've approached this?
So our studio is fully remote anyway, which is quite a cool thing. And I think, from what I understand, a lot of studios are going in that direction now. If not fully remotely, then a lot of them are heading in. Because the thing is, as long as you've got a powerful enough computer and you've got the internet, you can more or less do everything from home anyway. So the one thing I guess the face-to-face element of it, you do miss, but we have team meetings every day. We do it all over Discord. So we're video calling every single day. It feels like you know them anyway. We did have a meet up a few weeks ago of the team, and it was great to meet people in person. And that did kind of add an extra element, because now I actually feel like I know my colleagues properly, in person. But I was working remotely before that in my old job anyway, and I love working remotely personally. I'm a very reclusive little hobbit. I don't do the outside world. So for me, it's been great. The opportunity to just stay at home and work and, just immerse myself has been great. The one downside, I suppose, is that you can't just turn around and go, hey, what do you think of this? It's, I guess, having never compared it to anything, I don't know if that's a thing that normally happens. So, I can't miss what I've never had, right?
Yeah.
So I used to be in the office every day, and like I hate getting up early and having to get public transport and go in, but I don't mind being in the office itself. I like being around people and stuff, but I now work from home 4 days, sometimes 5 days a week, and I love it, because, you got teams and you got sort of, it's quite easy just to sort of, you can talk to everybody you need to talk to.
Yeah.
You don't get that sort of personal interaction, like, with multiple people, which, you would get in the office.
Or like when you just get up and you make a cup of tea and you have a little chat with whoever.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
that you don't get that
organic thing.
But it's sort of weighing it up. I'm like you. It's just like, I've got WhatsApp groups and I've got got Teams and stuff, and I talk to everybody anyway, and I don't have to get up at stupid o'clock in the morning. I can just roll out of bed, roll downstairs, stick on the computer, and I'm good to go. So I very much prefer sort of kind of working from home, simply because I don't have to deal with Johnny Public on the train.
Yes.
Johnny Public on the train, and I don't have to sort of get up stupidly early, and that sort of, and it saves me money.
But saving the money that's the big thing for me. Was when I was living before, and also the fact that that's why I was able to move in the first place, because my job is remote, so I can do it anywhere. Otherwise, I would have been tethered to having to have a job in or around London, which I love London, but it's very expensive. So moving and being able to cut down that commute cost and just the amount of money that it saves, it makes so much of a difference.
Oh yeah, I mean, one of the many reasons I should say I wouldn't became a freelance journalist was because I was paying about £11 a day just to go to work.
Yeah.
On the train, and
isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, it's
and
more
time as well is the other thing. It's financial costs, but also the time costs. I was traveling nearly an hour there and an hour back, and that's an hour I've got back to do whatever I want with.
I think they find with us, I think they find that people are generally a bit more most people are generally a bit more productive, because people would leave on the dot and then sort of come back, whereas now, because they're sort of working from home, like I work a bit later, because I would have been on the train probably for an hour trying to get back, and then obviously there's walking to the train station and walking back and all these things. So I work a bit later because it's not really wasting much of my time, because I was already going to be on public transport and stuff. But yeah, the whole it cost me like 11 quid a day for the train. Then there was food. Then there was sort of like petrol. Then there was doggy daycare for my dog, and it was just, and all sort of tied up. And it actually got to the point where they were saying, "We need you to come into the office sort of three times a week." And I was just like, yeah, well, the way everything's like super expensive now at the minute, and coming in three times a week, I'm gonna have to get a yearly pass for the train. That's gonna cost me $1,000. I'm gonna have the additional things. Any chance I can just work from home? You don't need me in the office? And they went, yeah, all right, okay.
Yeah,
like the genie's out the bottle on this now, isn't it? We can't put it back in. We've realized now that obviously some jobs you have to be in person. I think some jobs probably work better in person, and there are other people, like my other half, he likes to be in the office, and that's fine. That's just his personality. He's a manager, so I think it's easier, but I don't think you can really justify telling people they have to be in the office anymore.
Yeah, I think you said, I think it's one of the good things that happened because of COVID and stuff is that it actually forced people to sort of do the whole working from home thing and realize that it works and stuff. And I think the only reason my work sort of pushed people to come into the office is, one, because there were some people who take the piss, but then two, because they've got this massive office space that they've obviously rented for like 20 years, 30 years or something, and it's going to be empty, so they kind of need to justify the expense and have people in it and stuff. So
my previous company bought a brand new premises in the middle of London, and they were all like, yeah, we'll make money by renting it out and doing events. And then COVID happened, and they did not make much money by renting it out and doing events.
Oh dear.
Yeah, it was unfortunate. It was very unfortunate, but
yeah, I've heard several companies have actually just sold off their company headquarters or downsized, and just because they don't need people to come in, and it's like they're going for hybrid working. I mean, there are some roles that you do need to be in the job for, like especially like in the chemical industries and science and research. And yes, you do need lab people in the lab.
Yeah, like previously, my old jobs, there's no way I could have done any of those from home. When I used to work in medical labs, you have to be in the lab.
Exactly. But there's lots of stuff you can do remotely.
Yeah.
So yes, and I'd be very surprised if we go back to work, back to the offices, and everyone's just going, why? No.
When was the last time you were in the office, Pete? When was the last time you were in the office?
Are you asking me?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, last time I was in the office. Ooh, that's a good question.
How long have you been freelancing for?
6 years full time. I've been freelancing since 2013. My first paid gig was writing an article for Games TM,
Okay.
6-page feature. That was the very first paid gig. Then I did a couple of stuff for the BBC. And then at my following annual review, the boss said to me, "We've noticed you've been doing a fair bit of kind of like writing articles." And yeah. It's like something in spare time. Yeah, like, for the BBC. Yeah, like, it's just something to do on the train. Yeah. Are you thinking of changing careers? No. Yes, I was. And so, yeah, I've been working from home for 6 years now. So the impact for me has been very little, very minor, other than homeschooling the kids.
Yeah, I think that was a big problem, wasn't it, for a lot of people homeschooling the kids. I got like a lot of people were going into the office just so they could get away from that and stuff.
This was one of the many, many reasons why I freelance work from home was so, for instance, like where the kids are home, I can just basically drop my job and just go and look after the kids.
Yeah.
It's less, Kaylee's role is less flexible than mine. So fine, Kaylee works upstairs and I look after the kids. So to be honest, I say look after the kids. Mostly, I chuck my eldest upstairs with the laptop. I say, right, you know what you're doing, go do it. Send my eldest son off with the tablet and say, right, you know what you're doing, got any questions, speak to mummy. And then, which because it's maths and Kaylee's fantastic in maths and I'm not. And I just sit down with my youngest, who was 5 then, and just think, right, okay, let's go through this and work it all out. And basically kind of like do the various things that the teacher set for us. But yeah, it was literally a full-time job, homeschooling the kids, and
that must be hard. That must be hard. I do have a lot of sympathy for parents. I'm sitting there going, "Oh, it's great. I get to be at home with my cats." But yeah, you don't have...
Yeah, but it is fantastic. I mean, we got to spend more time together as a family.
I guess that's also true. Yeah, I guess it swings and roundabouts, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's like you've got to have hours exercise every day. We did hours exercise together every day. Went out for walks around the village and just kind of explored the local area and learned about the history. For doing PE, because the roads are so quiet, especially during that first lockdown, I gave my kids road safety lessons on the bikes.
Yeah.
Because it's a perfect time. And also now, with the schools back and Kaylee's still remote working and will be for the foreseeable because there's been no change in terms of productivity and hitting the targets. She can still be a mum on a work day and take the kids to school and pick them back up again, which is something she never could do when she was working in the office. So yeah, it is very much swings around, but there's some benefits, but there's some challenges, and you just learn to work around it.
Yeah, and I think it's COVID's not going anywhere. I think it's literally going to be forever. It's just going to be a seasonal sort of thing.
Exactly. I've been hearing reports of the next evolution of the Omicron variant, and yeah, it's going to be here. It's going to keep evolving. Generally, my general understanding from speaking to various people is that it's going to be here for the foreseeable, and just become part of our flu vaccination.
Yeah.
If you don't have flu vaccination, you will get tired. If you do have it, you'll have, I wouldn't say immunity, but you do have a resistance to it that will lessen the symptoms.
Yeah.
So get your bloody vaccination, you bloody idiots.
Whoa, internet explode.
I tell you something, I did an article, but end of 2020 about vaccine manufacture on BBC Future. The messages I got. The idiots.
How dare you?
Exactly.
How dare you?
How dare you? Why don't you go and do some proper journalism? I did.
Yeah.
I went out and spoke to the virus manufacturers. I spoke to the person who invented RNA vaccines.
Yeah. How much more work do you want someone to do?
What more do you want? Just because it doesn't align with your crackpot theories, I'm sorry. No, scratch that. I'm not sorry.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah.
That's the joy of making things up for a living, is that no one can tell you. No one can say, "Oh, you got to do it this way." No, I do what I want. I can make
Then
it
again,
well.
do you? Don't
Well,
they? Really?
Well, we'll find out, won't we?
But there is a fringe minority out there.
Yeah.
And I do say minority because generally most people enjoy what they read, enjoy what they play, and what have you. But there is like, oh, they shouldn't have done that, they should have done this.
Yeah, I mean, there's two levels of it, isn't there? There is definitely like I personally didn't enjoy the way X ended, right?
Yeah.
And that's fine. I think it's okay to kind of go, well, it isn't what I would have wanted. That's normal. I think a lot of people would say that they felt that way at some point. Where it goes a bit awry is when people go, I didn't like the way that this ended. It should have ended in this way because I know better than the writer does. And I'm going to send me messages about it, or I'm going to rant about it on Twitter, or I'm going to, it's a sense of I think the difference is a sense of disappointment, which is understandable and valid, and a sense of entitlement, which elevates it to a point where it's like, I didn't like this, and I'm going to make this everyone's problem. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
Sorry, I completely missed that because my dog has this uncanny sense when I'm doing anything that relates to streaming and stuff that he just wants to be an asshole. So he's kicking off there, and then he decided that he wanted outside again, so he's just sitting whimpering at the back door.
Oh. No, just say that the difference between disappointment and entitlement when it comes to not enjoying particular bits of media. Like, for example, I'm one of the people who didn't enjoy the way Game of Thrones ended. But I'm not going to.
Really?
I am. But I'm not going to sit there and kick off about it. And I'm not going to sit there and go, well, if I was the writer, well, I'm not the writer, am I? And well, I mean, besides the fact that I think I'll be interested to see if George R.R. Martin ever finishes it, what his ending will be.
He's got his money now. He doesn't give a fuck.
Well, Winter, how long has it been? 10 years?
Well, yeah, what was it? The last Dance for Dragons was 2000 and...
2011, 2012 is what popped into my head as well.
Yeah,
he's just been writing Elden Ring, so he obviously ain't that bothered.
Yeah.
Which is fine, I mean, at the end of the day, I also think there's a weird entitlement with things like, and as much as I really want to see the A Song of Ice and Fire books finished, if he doesn't want to do it, he doesn't want to do it. He's not a machine, let him do what he wants. He's an old man. But
I'm sort of, because of the way the series ended, it sort of put a slight bitter taste in my mouth for the books.
Yeah.
Because I'm not as fussed about it now. Like when I'd read the books, I was like, please get these done now, because it just didn't end very well at all.
No, it wasn't what I wanted, but also it wasn't what. It's weird.
They oversimplified it. They
oversimplified it is exactly it. Yes, I think it ended the way that I thought it would end overall. In terms of the end point, but how they got there was what bothered me. I think.
I don't know.
Maybe.
I think it just seemed too sort of like cut and dry. Like it's like they had such a complicated sort of piece of literature, and they sort of were doing it justice for the first sort of kind of three seasons, and then they started kind of going, oh crap, we've got we've run out of material. Yeah, we need to sort of
kind
start wrapping this up. So things started what became really complicated. They started kind of cutting corners and things, and like I still I don't think they should have killed Littlefinger. And I don't there's lots of things, and having
my sins. I'm a huge Stannis Baratheon fan, so you can imagine how I felt about that.
Yeah, and so
I really felt like that was a character assassination, to be quite honest.
And it's just there's loads of stuff, and I think it's sort of, the having Bran being elected king at the end and stuff.
Yeah, I didn't enjoy that.
It's just like what, and it's just come on. It's just Game of Thrones and stuff, and it's just like, and then it's just like. He kills Dany, and it's just like, okay, fine. But then it's just like, Grey Worm just kind of goes, all right.
Yeah, there were just some really, you could tell they were just like, we just need to finish this now.
Yeah, it's just like they majorly rushed it and stuff. They should have just realized that they couldn't have done that. They'd have to sort of carry it on. They could have got to the same sort of, like, I didn't mind Dany going bad. I thought that was quite good.
I could see it happening. I just think that they needed more time to
a bit,
make it
a bit
make
more
sense of the
exposition and stuff.
concept.
Yeah,
I think they need to kind of lay the groundwork more.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
yeah.
I mean,
Because
because
she just kind of went mad overnight almost, and
she had those elements to it, like where she kind of crucified all those slave
yeah,
owners.
like she always had it in her. You know, there was the whole kind of white savior thing going on that was a little bit like
Odd. Yeah.
love, are you sure? But yeah, and then so it kind of made sense that she would go down that road. And you know, they set the ground of the Mad King, the Mad Queen, and all of that. But it did seem to kind of escalate out of nowhere.
Well, instead of being kind of a gradual inclination, it was like a series of peaks randomly.
Yes.
So it just felt very chaotic in its.
The other thing I didn't enjoy. Firstly, I think Cersei deserved a better ending than the one that she got.
Oh yeah,
and
Jaime as well.
Lannister thing. Oh, that pissed me off so much. I just don't like when people set up a whole character arc and then they just go, and then he changed his mind. I went back to who he was before. And I'm like,
yeah.
That thing with Jaime as well, that threw me. Because in the first season, it took them several episodes to get down to King's Landing.
Yeah.
And then in the final season, Jaime Lannister literally went from King's Landing to King's Landing from the north in the space of an episode. Well, literally between an episode.
Me and my other half used to joke about Littlefinger because Littlefinger always jumped from plane. We used to joke they had a jetpack because Littlefinger could just literally appear.
He was such a good
across
character.
All across the kingdoms, and it'd be like, how's he getting there? He's obviously just got this jetpack. Littlefinger like taking off, going.
Such a good character. I just think they just didn't do him justice.
And Varys was the other one. I think Varys was. Oh, it was so unfair what happened to Varys.
Yeah, I think Varys went for someone who was incredibly intelligent to make some really dumb decisions.
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to completely openly talk about dissent against Dany.
Yeah.
Like.
This is the spider. This is the man who's kept everything hidden all this time, and suddenly he's holding the idiot ball.
Yeah, and Tyrion sort of got a bad sort of and it's just like, there's a lot. I think they had
Look at Jon Snow. He turned into. He went from being the king of the north to my queen, my queen.
So it's like they had these sort of kind of strong characters, and then when they ran out of book material, they just kind of went.
That's where it went downhill, isn't it?
All right, okay, we're gonna do this, and like Jon Snow's a fucking idiot now, and Tyrion's just making mistakes on that, and Dany's gone mad, and it's just like, you're killing it, man. Like the battle against the White Walkers thing annoyed me because they were this sort of imposing sort of thing. In the books especially, it's like something that sort of is, it's this gradual sort of kind of burn, and then suddenly they have it, and then it's just like, it's over. It's like, that's it. Over. It's like, what?
Was that it was set up as being like, do you remember they did that whole thing about, it's bigger than the Game of Thrones, it's bigger than kings and queens, it's bigger than everything, and then it's like, we're going to get this out of the way, and then we're going to have some kings and queens, and it's like, well, that should have been the apocalyptic ending, that should have been the ending. If it was bigger than everything, then
that's how it should have ended. Not have them sort out the things within Westeros and then face the.
Yeah, the battle for Winterfell really pissed me off, simply because, from a military history's point of view, it's like, why have you got everybody outside your castle and lined them up with the cavalry in the front and then discharge the cavalry off? It's like the cavalry's always on the flanks, and you never just charge it blindly into nothingness. Why would you ever
why
do
charge your cavalry at night?
It was so pointless, and I I want to like this, but I'm really annoyed by this, and it's just the whole thing was just slowly just getting worse and worse, and I was just like, oh God. And then that for me, that sort of affected my sort of wanting for the books and stuff, because it's
I've got a theory that George R.R. Martin had sort of written himself into a corner with his last book and said, "Okay, guys, let's see what you come up with."
Yeah.
and just basically
how do you think it would end?
Well, the thing is, he's got 2 more books. So Winds of Winter, Song of Summer.
Yeah.
And even that's going to be a struggle to get to sort of tie things up in, because, the books end with Jon Snow's just had his throat cut. I think he says ghost, and that was a moment where I was reading it going, I literally did a Joey thing. I was like, I'm going to put this book in the freezer, and I stopped reading it for ages. I think it took me a month from that point, from when Jon Snow was, inverted commas, killed, to finding out about, I think the last scene is when Kevin Lannister, Tywin's brother, is killed by Varys, and then the invasion. There's the invasion of Westeros by, is it Little Griff? Is it Little Griff? There's the other. The other Targaryens.
Yeah, Aegon. Fake. Is it fake Aegon? I can't remember the fake area.
I can't remember. I can't remember.
Took the arc out of the show, didn't they? So
yeah. So and there's that invasion, and it's sort of like, and Varys is on their side. He's not on Daenerys' side. Daenerys is off somewhere, sort of on Drogon. She's sort of like disappeared.
She's just miscarried, hasn't she? In the book, I think. And she's in the sea of grass or whatever it was. The Cracky Sea, isn't it?
And but it just sort of like it's like it was just so annoying that it's like, you had this sort of thing. There's a lot still to go on. There's still a lot of things. I don't even think they've got the basic where Littlefinger is taking Sansa to, I think they just pushed Lady off in the Moon Gate, and sort of. So I think they were going up north. So the whole stuff with what's his name, the Ramsay Bolton and
which
stuff
probably won't happen because in the books
it's another woman, isn't it? It's Penny or something because
of
P or.
But also you've got the Stannis Baratheon, his invasion of Winterfell is actually going much better than it did.
Yeah.
The hill I will die on, and I will die on this hill, is that he would never have burned his daughter.
Oh yeah.
I would die on that hill. He would. It just doesn't make sense for his character.
Yeah, he's a very Eddard Stark kind of character. Honor is very much a part of his thing, and I don't think
he doesn't even want to be king. He only wants to be king because it's the right thing. Because that's the way, the law of the land. Like he's rigid to a fault in that sense, but he's not. He doesn't actually, when you read the book particularly, but even in the show, he doesn't really believe in the Lord of Light and all of that. He's just doing it as a means to an end. But I think in the book there's a few times when Melisandre is like, "Oh yeah, let's burn someone." He's like, "We're not burning people. Stop that." Like, why would he burn his daughter if he won't even let her burn a stranger?
We never find out what is Melisandre's deal other than doing stuff for the Lord of Light, which feels
she's been around for a long time. And
there's just like I said, and Moldy, welcome, long time no see, sir. He says it was too rushed, needed another series. But
Moldy was my nickname at school.
Really? Okay.
Really?
My surname was Mold before I got married. So maybe a distant relative of mine.
Chris Mold is his name.
Chris Mold.
Chris Mold.
We could be related.
It could be related.
Who knows?
Just even I think 2 books they're going to struggle because even Arya's sort of the.
Because she's with the faceless man, isn't she?
Yeah, so there's lots of stuff for them to get through. And bearing in mind he goes through a lot of different points of view and stuff.
Yeah.
It's going to be. I think it's going to be quite hard for him even to get in 2 books and stuff. So because it is,
there's whole extra arcs in the books as well that weren't even in the show that need tying up. Lady Stoneheart and all of that.
Lady Stoneheart. That kind of part of me is kind of glad. Kind of glad they didn't do it, I guess, because it's sort of
they would have messed it up.
They would have messed it up. And that's right, because you don't sort of. I think in the books, Jaime is hung, isn't he?
Yeah.
Okay.
Jaime's hung because he's sort of Lady Stoneheart is with the band.
She captures him, doesn't she?
With the Brothers Without Banners, or and basically, I think Gendry's there, and I think one of the last things you see with Jaime is he's being hung, or is it Brienne who's hung?
It's Brienne.
It's Brienne who's hung.
Brienne.
Yeah, Brienne's hung. Yeah,
Jaime's with the fishy people. What are they? The Tullys.
Yes, yes, that's right. Yeah. So it's Brienne. So she's getting hung, isn't she?
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's right. She is, because of her association with.
Yeah.
With him.
No, and that's right. She broke her oath because she said she was going to protect.
That's it.
She was going to protect. And then obviously Lady Stoneheart, aka Catelyn Stark, basically says, you broke your oath, and so hangs her. And you don't know if she's dead or not and stuff. So it's that stuff like that. There's a really good sort
This
of.
is why I do want the book, because I do kind of want to see if he goes in a different direction, if it would be more satisfying. And
Well, I think now he has to, doesn't he? Because
yeah,
there's no
he
way
does.
he can sort of, go at the ending that it has. I think if he goes for an ending, I think he'll go for a gotcha sort of thing, and I hope
King
he does.
Gendry.
Yeah, well, I don't even, not even that. Like, I say this all the time whenever I talk about my Game of Thrones theories and stuff, and I did sort of like a video on it, but it's like Littlefinger on the throne at the end.
I still say it's going to be Syrio Farrell. Comes out at the end.
Ooh, Syrio, yeah. Do you know what I want more than anything? King Davos. King Davos Seaworth.
Okay.
Yeah, he'd be good.
The Onion
man.
Knight. Yeah.
The Onion Knight, the Onion King. I think he deserves it. That's what I would like, but that's more wishful thinking than what I think will happen.
The thing is, I don't know. Like, I'm not sure. What age is he now? What age is Martin now?
He's knocking on.
Yeah, I don't think you think it's taken him 10 years, and maybe he's at the tail end of Winds of Winter now. Another 10 years. What is it?
This is why we write fan fiction.
Yeah, so let's see.
Well, one thing J. Michael Straczynski did when he was creating Babylon 5 back in the 90s was he actually had in a locked safe the entire breakdown of what was going to happen for the 5-season arc, and just in case he didn't make it.
I do believe George R.R. Martin is not a planner, though. I do believe.
I don't think he is.
Which I sympathise with because I'm not as well. But I think he is one of those who makes it up as he goes along. So whether he even has that, I don't know.
He's 73 now.
73.
He's
okay, so he's not like old, but he's certainly not a spring chicken either.
Yeah. And let's just say he's not. Let's say he's not in shape. He's not sort of like, I don't think he's looking after himself. So with all due respect, so another 10 years, it's just like, is he going to make it to the end of the book and stuff?
Do you remember these TV Oscars a few years ago when Weird Yankovic did a presentation? Well, did part of the presentation and sang a series of theme tunes, including Game of Thrones, which was basically George, write as fast as you can. We need more scripts. And boy, were you right.
I'll be interested to see what happens
always
with
Prophet.
You've got the new series, don't you? The prequel stuff. The
the Egg and Duncan Egg.
That is coming up.
That,
but you've got the Targaryen series.
Oh yeah.
But I really think that last season of Game of Thrones killed any interest in the whole setting.
Agree,
Well, they've done themselves a massive mischief though there, and that's we've talked about this numerous times and stuff, but it's like that series had the potential to be a talking point for forever. And the only reason it's a talking point is because how bad it was, not because of something epic that happened and stuff. And it's just like,
do you think it's weird that it just dropped out of public consciousness as well? Like, I think it was so disastrous that it kind of stopped existing.
It did. And
it wasn't even so badly received that people keep. I mean, obviously now we're talking about it, but you generally don't see people talking about it anymore. Yeah. It's just like, let's just collectively forget that ever happened.
Yeah, there was no. I remember that series and that happened. It was just like
we just don't talk about it.
Some people thought it was okay, but I think that was it. Some people liked it, but there was no sort of like
No one went to bat for it though. Nobody was like, actually, I think it was superb. Like and absolutely, people liked it. That's totally cool. I think people they are just as valid as everybody else. But you didn't see anybody turn around and go, well, I think it was a triumph. I think at best people were like, yeah, it was all right.
Yeah, watchable and stuff. Like I watched it and I didn't hate it. It's just sort of, it was just annoying because the potential was completely squandered, and all they needed to do was just not rush it and just sort of give it a bit more time. And I know they sort of it was an expensive series and things like that, but they could have had something really special, and they just they fucked it basically.
Well, compare that with The Expanse, which ended excellently, yet left it tied up all the current plot threads, but still left open a lot of plot to be explored at another time. That was how you ended a series brilliantly.
Yeah,
I do enjoy series that don't feel like they have to, even in the finale, that don't feel like they have to tie up everything. Like obviously you want the major plot points resolved, but I don't think there's anything wrong with having loose ends left at the end of a series. I think that's not a bad thing, as long as they're not, hugely plot significant ones, if that makes sense. Like,
You could argue that happened with the final season of Expanse without going into too much details because it is quite recent. There was that element there that some certain.
It was slightly rushed. It wasn't. It wasn't badly done, but 6 episodes. And
basically, that was all they were given, unfortunately.
Yeah, that's the thing, isn't it? Like, sometimes it's not down to whether. I'm sure the writers would love to have done more, but
they filmed a lot more, but just couldn't fit it in. Now, conversely, the writers of Game of Thrones, they said they could have had more, but they said no, we just want to do this final season. That's it, done. And the history of going, no, you can have as much as you want. 2, 3 seasons. How many more do you want? No, just one. Thank you. 6 episodes.
Yeah, and it really felt, because especially considering all the other seasons have been 10 episodes.
Exactly, yeah.
So, it really did feel like they were like, I can't be asked with this anymore. That's kind of the dominant impression I got with it was, can't be asked with this now.
They had other contracts coming up, as I understand. Yeah. It's just the Star Wars films and everything. So, let's move on to that then. And thanks, guys.
Yeah,
really, thanks.
I it's like, personally, I think that just damaged their credibility as sort of directors and things like that. Yeah. And it's just like,
fortunately,
I think it's proven that they are fantastic at adapting existing pieces of work.
Yes,
but they do not. They struggle with creating something new, to put it diplomatically.
Yeah, especially something that complicated.
And it is complicated. You've got to be fair to as fair as I possibly can to them. It's not an easy thing to write.
No. And I think,
but then know your limits. I wouldn't try and write it. I'd suck.
Yeah, no, that's it. And it's sort of, I know it's. I think it's hard to finish anything off without it being slightly disappointing, because there's obviously people's sort of preconceptions of how things should be. Yeah. But they just didn't try with it and stuff. So I understand, they were never going to get it perfectly right, but
no, you can't please all the people, can you?
But they got it perfectly wrong.
Yeah.
One of the examples that I always give with this is, so Stephen King's Dark Tower series, which is a similarly kind of epic thing. Now, I absolutely loved the ending. I know people who absolutely hated the ending, but you felt something either way. Now, going in that you're not, when you finish an epic series like that, you're going to piss people off with whatever you decide to do, right? Because you can't please everybody. But I feel like you're doing it right if 50% of the people loved it and 50% of the people hated it. You've evoked a feeling, right?
Yeah.
So, in my opinion, he stuck that landing. Whether you thought it was good or whether you thought it was bad, he stuck it. The problem is when people are like, that's a bad ending. When people, the most you can muster is kind of,
Yeah.
I mean, when I'm reviewing a book or whatever, the worst I can feel is like, it's all right, because then I don't have the passion there. If there's something bad, I can write, okay, this was bad because I thought this, and because I thought, it didn't work for me, and this is why it didn't work for me.
Yeah.
Equally, it sounds great. I said, but this is really, really good. Like with The Matrix Resurrection, this is really good. This is why I liked it. I really like these elements in it. It really worked for me. It really spoke to me. But if it'd been a bit bland, it would have been, it was okay. But
damning with faint praise, isn't it? Yeah.
Exactly. It's you need some passion there.
Yeah.
You need to feel the passion.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. I don't think I'm ever gonna sort of forgive them for the Game of Thrones. It's one of those things. It's just
I do think that's why it just faded. It's just faded away because everybody feels the same way, and it was just that sense of vague disappointment, which is a terrible, terrible legacy for something. Just a sense of dissatisfaction.
The one thing was so I loved, I just loved that whole thing of I'd read the books and people who hadn't read the books were sort of watching the series and stuff, and I kind of knew what was going on, and I just loved their faces when things happened, and sort of kind of just the whole sort of kind of
joy of the Red Wedding and knowing in advance it was going to happen.
Absolutely. It was just sort of I remember there's a guy called Gearson who used to work with me, and I'd read them, and I've been absolutely disgusted when the Red Wedding happened, and I had to sit there for 5 years or something. I can't even remember how long. It was a long time, basically, with this thing sort of happening. And I was, and I remember him coming up and going, "Oh my mate," 'cause he's from Wigan, and he's like, "Oh my mate, I love that, I love that Rob Stark," and he's so good, and he's just I love this. And he's sort of kind of banging on about him, and I'm just like, "Oh man, you have no idea what's about to happen here, do you?" Yeah. And then he came in the day after the Red Wedding, was like, "Man, mate, nobody's safe. Nobody's safe."
Nobody's safe.
I was just like, at least we've still got Jon Snow. And I was just oh no.
This was me and the Expanse, because I'd read some of the books before the filming had started. And people going up to me for the first few episodes, "It's a bit slow, nothing much is happening." Well, just give it time. Just give it time.
Yeah.
And then the episode CQB happens, which has to be one of the best starship battles I've ever seen.
The Expanse is so good.
And they're just like,
oh, yeah. Like the Expanse was something that I refused to watch simply because it was on Sci-Fi originally, and I was just like, I'm not watching anything from Sci-Fi. They do Sharknado and stuff, and I thought it was just going to be super naff. Like I don't even waste my time with that and stuff. And then everybody, was banging on about it. All my friends were saying, and Pete was talking about it, Mark and stuff, and they're all going, "You should need to watch this." And I went, "All right, fine, I'll give it a go." And thankfully, I think it just got onto Amazon. It was on season 5 or something, and I was able to literally just binged it, and I went, "Oh my god, that is some of the best sci-fi I have seen in years." It's so good. Like some of the space battles and stuff, and the fact that you've got all the sort of kind of the science behind it, like that when they go back to a planet, when they're sort of kind of going to go orbit into a planet, they reverse in because they have to, obviously, entropy and stuff, and they have to sort of use their boosters to sort of kind of stop them from moving forward and stuff. And it's just like
braking maneuvers whistle.
Yeah, and it's just sort of so good. Like it just like amazing. And it ended not it was slightly not disappointing, but it was too quick. It ended too quickly, and they could have really sort of done a bit more into it. But it was so good.
Yeah, that was due to studio demands rather than writers' demands. Unfortunately, they said, "Right, you got to stick it to that this number of episodes in this season." Like, oh. So they did drop a lot of material that they wanted to include, unfortunately. But there is open potential possibility maybe could be having a trilogy of films afterwards. Maybe.
Well, they're really sort of kind of bringing that. What was it? Who we had him on a podcast? Gareth Powell. Was it Gareth Powell?
Gareth Powell.
Yeah.
Gareth Powell. Yep.
Yeah. Because I think he's got his he's got some of his stuff going to be made into
Fleet of Knives.
Yes. So there's I think they're sort of buying into this sort of. I really hope they give the First Law trilogy, the Joe Abercrombie, if they make a series out of that or something, because that would be awesome. That would be so good because it's really really good. It's sort of Game of Thrones-esque.
I would, if you're looking for Game of Thrones stories, I would recommend Robin Hobb's Elderlings, Realm of the Underlings books. Okay. So you got the Farseer trilogy and so on. Because they are just great.
Yeah, there's loads of stuff that I think they could easily put into sort of kind of series or sort of a trilogy of films and stuff. And don't, but who knows?
I would love to see the Laundry Files by Charlie Stross as well.
I'd like to see the Red Rising. Well, it's not a trilogy anymore. He's on his 6th book. I can't remember. Oh God, what's his name? Who's the writer? Oh God,
I know.
1 minute. Red Rising. Pierce. Red Rising. Red Rising. Pierce Brown. Yeah, that's it. Pierce Brown. So yeah, that's really really good. Sort of kind of sci-fi meat. It starts off kind of being very sort of Hunger Games-ish, which is weird, but it's like, but it evolves over time. You can tell sort of he's evolving with his sort of the way the writing goes, and they got some so like battle scenes and sort of scenes that the way he describes things going on, and the whole sort of class system within the Martian sort of class system and stuff, and it's just like so good. And I think that'll be an awesome series.
One thing I want to ask is, what does everyone think of the Rings of Power series coming on Amazon Prime?
I hope it's going to be good. I really hope it's going to be good.
Yeah,
I'll be very upset if it's not. I'm going to be very upset if it's not.
It's your take.
It's not my genre, so I don't really know much about it. But everybody I know who is into it has said exactly the same thing. I hope it's good. That's dominant.
What is your genre? What would your genre choice then?
I like sci-fi, but I usually tend away from spaceship stuff. My other half is a huge spaceship sci-fi. Like, he's a huge fan of The Expanse. I know he loves that. Horror, weird. I'm an anime nerd mostly. Admittedly, I'm mostly an anime nerd.
Have you watched any of the Patlabor?
Yeah, I used to watch Patlabor. That was a classic. Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, there was a live action Patlabor as well.
It was. I've never seen the live action one, but live action anime is hit and miss. Yeah. Some of it's really good. Some of it's not so good at all.
Well, they did they did Cowboy Bebop, didn't they? On Netflix. I haven't watched it.
Don't watch it.
No. Watch the original. I'm biased because Cowboy Bebop was kind of my gateway drug to anime as a young'un, and it's still. I mean, I've watched it again recently, and it holds up. In my opinion, it holds up beautifully. But they just kind of stripped it of all of the soul. Like, they took the aesthetics of it. It looked great, but all of the soul of the series, there's just none of it. It was just a series of really kind of hollow jokes and aesthetics, and it had none of the soul of it.
Yeah, I watched the trailer for it where they're kind of like doing tricks with the split screen, and it just felt hyper stylized, but with no substance.
That's exactly what I thought. It was style without substance. It looked superb, like beautifully cut, beautifully filmed. Yeah. That was it, though. Like, they didn't really get the essence of the characters. They didn't get the essence of the whole thing. Is they're kind of like a really dysfunctional family. You know, it was kind of like Firefly before Firefly. I think it was before Firefly. I want to say it was before Firefly.
Yeah, it was.
But, it was of that kind of, a bunch of misfits who find each other and find this kind of, strained familial relationship, and there just wasn't present. No, bad times.
Oh, yeah.
Not for me. Yeah.
Yeah, because
I say don't like spaceship stuff. Look at Cowboy Bebop is spaceship stuff, so I'm obviously a liar. But yeah.
Because I think one of the first live action mangas was Body Hammer. Tetsuo.
Yes, Tetsuo, Iron Man. Yeah.
Iron Man. That I watched that in black and white and was really weird.
Well, they had a live action. Was it Guyver? I think Guyver was.
Oh,
Guyver was. They had live action. They had live action Guyver films, which I quite enjoyed. They were really brutal, to be honest. If you watched them,
that's manga for you, to be fair.
Yeah,
it was pretty brutal.
I tend to find that the Japanese adaptations of manga are better than the Western ones. But when we try and adapt it in the West, we just don't get it. I think we just don't get what manga is about. We westernize it to the point where it isn't what it's meant to be anymore.
It's completely different cultural outlooks, to be fair.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, it is, and I just think it's because Cowboy Bebop was just. I kind of knew it wasn't going to be good, but I didn't realize it was going to be that bad. Yeah.
And are you still doing your PhD in?
I am.
Manga? Oh, nice.
I am still doing my PhD. I actually just had a meeting with my supervisor last week, and I'm doing hauntology, which is Jacques Derrida. It's obscure French philosophy, but it's more or less his idea that we're kind of haunted by the ghosts of lost futures, futures that never came to be, and that the ghost recurs because it has a message for us, and we owe it to listen to the ghost. It's of that kind of philosophy, but it was all about Marxism and all that sort of thing. So you've got to dig through lots of obscure French philosophy to get to it. And my kind of thesis is that post-war, post-millennial Japanese horror has a strand of this running through it, inherent as well. And I'm kind of going back to folklore, and I'm going back to classical literature and the classical representation of the ghost, the yurei, the onryo. Sadako in The Ring is she's a classic onryo. The way that she looks, the way that she acts, she is plucked from classical Japanese folklore and classical Japanese literature. So that's kind of where I'm going with it. But it's a cool thing to be able to study. It is a cool thing to be able to go, I'm just going to look at some manga now. But I have to stick with Derrida to get there. So,
Yeah. Yes, so manga horror would be a fair assessment of your particular taste.
Probably, yeah. But I mean, when it comes to manga, I like a lot of different things. The one I watched recently is called Ranking of Kings. Ranking of
Yeah.
Kings. Actually, I would recommend that to anybody who enjoyed Game of Thrones because you go into it thinking, oh, this is a cute little thing about this adorable little prince guy, and then it just goes like full Game of Thrones. You know, politics and horrible things happen, and it's really brutal, but it's really good. Ranking of Kings is it's not what I expected it to be at all. And that's fantasy. That's pure fantasy. So I think when it comes to manga, I'm a lot more open to genre. To anime, I'm more open to genre than I am maybe with the Western stuff. I tend to be more rigid, and that's probably a fault on my part. I probably should be a bit more open, but
I could never sort of get my head around manga and stuff, to be honest. Like, I know a lot of people are really sort of kind of super obsessed with it, but it never sort of ticked many boxes for me and stuff. I don't know
that's
why.
fair enough. It is. I think it's very love or hate it. I mean, there is a variety of anime and manga. There are different kinds, but I do think it is something that you either just click or you don't, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that.
We were talking about Transformers and stuff. That's all sort of kind of comes from it's
mecha anime.
Mecha anime and stuff. So growing
that.
up, that was that sort of thing. But it's just sort of there's some of it is like I've got friends. He's really into One Piece, isn't it? Is it One Piece?
One Piece, yeah.
And he was trying to sort of try and describe it to me the other day, and I'm just like, I don't understand.
I think people who watch One Piece don't understand One Piece.
Yeah.
Honestly, there's 1,000 episodes. Yeah. Like, I don't think you can really sustain I'm going to get a load of angry One Piece fans. I mean, I enjoy it. I enjoy One Piece. I can't say I particularly understand what's going on, but I enjoy it.
I think that what puts me off manga to an extent is because there's so many episodes of it. Like Death Note is a fantastic idea.
There's a lot of it, though, isn't there?
But there's a lot of it, and I think to its detriment.
Yeah, that's why I would recommend things like, I think Cowboy Bebop is brilliant because it's too self-contained. Anything. So the guy who did Cowboy Bebop is called Shinichiro Watanabe, and anything that he has ever done has always been good because he tends to limit it to 2 series only.
Yeah.
And he writes a tight arc across 2 series. It's got a beginning, a middle, and an end. It's quite episodic in nature, so you've got other things happening in the background. He also wrote one called Space Dandy, which again is a spaceship one, which is mostly a comedy, and it is really enjoyable. It's really fun, just silliness in space. But yeah, I think that it can. You're right, it can go on for too long. It's the thing is, like, you've got to remember they're serialized weekly. Most mangas and most animes come from mangas, so if it's doing well, they just squeeze out as many episodes as they can, and it tends to get a bit unwieldy at times. But
I found that with Attack on Titan as well. Like, again, a fantastic idea, brilliant executed, but just one season was about 20 stories, not 20 episodes, and it was just like, no, you could have told this in 10.
Yeah.
But again, it looked fantastic and had some brilliant ideas, and like, oh, that guy can turn Titan. Oh, okay.
Yeah. I think a lot of them is to do with particular types of anime have really long fight scenes.
Yeah.
They take up a good 3/4 of an episode. Not all anime are like that, but some of them are. Yeah. And Attack on Titan is very much an action heavy.
It's a war film to me.
It is more or less, yeah. It is about war. I mean, I've read it through to the end, and the ending of it was very, very flagrantly a war narrative. Yeah. Very much so.
Yeah. Also, one thing I watched as well was Cyber City Oedo 808.
Oh, I haven't seen that one. That sounds good though.
3 parts. Basically, the type premise is like it's sort of like this near future Tokyo, and these 3 convicts with like centuries on their prison time, and they have to basically, to kind of work off their time, they kind of take on like very dangerous missions for the police. And they got when these exploding cars around next, so if they don't do it in a certain time, boom. If they disobey an order, boom. If they do something that the organizers like, boom. If they try to remove it, boom. And yeah, it's just, I think that was my first exposure to manga and anime, because I was watching it Channel 4 late at night.
Yeah, they used to do that. Yeah, I loved that. Channel 4 and also Cartoon Network had Toonami, and that was where they had a lot of it. It was either one or the other.
Was it Channel 4? Did they have Ghost in the Shell, or was that MTV that had Ghost in the Shell?
MTV, yeah, Ghost in the Shell. That was my first time I seen it. Heavily cut, as was Akira as well, to the point of being unable to follow.
Both superb
Yeah.
films, though. They really are both.
Yeah, but like it's one of the things it's so cut down in the films that you have to read the manga to follow Akira, especially.
Yeah.
Because where's that kid? What's that kid do? What's going on?
Up to a certain point, there is an element of kind of you just have to let it go.
Exactly.
Just accept things. Don't question too much. A lot of it is about it's a different kind of storytelling as well. The other thing, a lot of the time
you're not meant to understand it in a sense, are you?
Some of it, yeah, and I think so. This is interesting. Bringing it back to games writing because my boss and I kind of had a discussion when we were writing this game about how much you want to give the player and how much you don't. And we both agree we don't enjoy spoon-fed narratives when it comes to lore.
Yeah.
We don't enjoy. This is controversial, but both of us are not massive Lord of the Rings fans. And the reason why is because we feel like I feel like you're a tourist in Tolkien's world, which some people really enjoy that, but I don't necessarily enjoy being given encyclopedic lore. I like to learn as I go along, and I like to have gaps as well. Like I don't think you need to know everything about a world, and I'm glad that we kind of had that agreement, me and my boss, when we were writing it, going, okay, we don't, when we're talking about writing lore and stuff like that, we need to know, but the player doesn't. There's
because you think he's because he's literally gone balls deep with everything, and you literally got family trees and history.
Yeah.
And stuff in
I know
there.
some people love that, I'm sure, but for me, it felt like just feel a little bit like sitting through somebody's kind of holiday, slideshow of photos.
But having that lore, for yourselves, will inform the writing and development of this world, won't it?
Totally, it absolutely will, and it really is down to sort of how much do we want to give, how much do people need to know? It is need to know, I think, the way that there are some things that are fun to know as well, but it is very much we don't want this to be an exhaustive. Everything has to make sense. Here is all the politics. Here is all the family trees. Here is all the how we got here. So up to a point, there has to be just you just have to accept that this is the world and that you are in it, and you have to just roll with it. Roll with it.
That's why you can have like collectible foundables in the games where it kind of gives. And so, when I'm playing a game, I just kind of got that. The vital information will be kind of explained to me in the background in the environment, but I don't want to read pages and pages of kind of background of who's the second cousin of the twice removed firstborn king. I don't need that.
I have. Sorry,
go ahead.
I like story driven games, but I hate reading lots of reams of storyline in games and stuff. I completely.
See, that's what we were trying to avoid, and our touchstone for it was, I don't know if you've played BioShock.
Yes.
In BioShock, you've got these really nice, snappy audio logs that you pick up.
Yeah.
And they give just enough background story about things that have happened in the world for you to get a flavour of the kind of world that you're in. But they don't go on forever and they don't exhaust you. It's just snapshots. And that's kind of where we were. We were kind of like, we want to give snapshots of the world and snapshots of background lore and snapshots of background information, but brief, so that you can kind of look at them. If you're a completionist, you can put them all side by side and you can work out how they all interact. That's fine. But you can also just take them at face value and, learn as much or as little as you want from them. And that was kind of our decision in how we would attack lore, basically, and how we would do it. And that's how I like my lore as well. I don't want to have to sit and read through a 200-page bestiary.
You give them sort of windows into the life.
Yeah. A flavour. That was what we were kind of going. Like, you just get a taste of the world, and then you can kind of build your own conclusions from it.
Okay.
So what's the score then? So if you said your contract's up at the end of the month, and I'm assuming that contract gets extended, and depending on how well the game, I think it all depends on budget and stuff like that. I mean, the vagaries of being a games contractor is, does the game studio have the budget to keep you on? I hope I get kept on. If I don't, we'll see what happens. I might end up in a different profession. Who knows? But it's been a blast either way. Would you sort of look to sort of go and try another company or try something? Is it something that you've you think, right, I really enjoy this. This is
Yeah.
something I kind of want to carry on doing.
Yeah, I've got a taste for it now. It's definitely when you put it this way, like when I've done kind of like normie jobs, I suppose, for want of a different word, and like I've ended up in this job, and I'm like, wow, this is how the world can be. This is I've opened my eyes to something that I never thought I would end up doing. I never thought I would find a way into, and I have now, and I've got my foot in the door. And as much as I would dearly love to keep working for this company in particular, if the stars don't align, I would, I would like look to maybe try somewhere else or something similar. It's a great profession. I mean, I love games. I love writing. It's kind of the dream, if I've got to end up working back in a lab, I'll do it. But
my friend, the game Star Citizen. The saga that it is, the Star Citizen. One of my best mates, his wife, is the HR, is in charge of HR for Cloud and Crane Games.
Cool.
And she has zero interest in games. Like she just went for an interview at this company in Wilmslow and went, and they were like, yeah, we're a gaming company. Oh, okay, cool. And she's like turned around to my mate and went, do you know these people? He's like, what? Really? So like, and the thing is, like, they invited her to some like drinks thing, and they said, you can bring somebody with you. And my mate sort of, he's not massively into that sort of game and stuff, so she's like, I'll invite Matt. And then he found out there was going to be free drinks and stuff, so he blocked me. I was like, your missus was going to invite me, and apparently they give away really cool gifts, like they have like star systems and glass sort of kind of
that's
things
awesome.
And stuff. And I was like, I could have gone, and it's just like, no, we're getting free drinks, I'm going now.
Free drinks,
like, no.
I found out recently one of the school mums used to do all the HR for Tomb Raider.
That's very cool.
No, finally, she has no interest in gaming. I only found out, like, I saw their name come up on the sort of Tomb Raider themed event in Central Derby. Like, hang on, what's she doing there? And then so I Googled the name and did a bit of research. Oh, so I turned to, why didn't you tell me you knew about Tomb Raider? He says, I just don't care. I don't like gaming. Like, okay.
You've got to have normie people to keep everything running. Basically, if geeks ran everything, we'd never get anything done. You need normal, sensible people to keep us all in line.
That's actually true, because one of my friends has been recently employed by this company to act as a go-between between the salespeople and the tech team.
Yeah.
To basically act as a translator for both of them.
Yeah. You really do need that. You really do need a normal, sensible contingent to keep the rest of us dreamers in check. And God bless those people.
Yeah, that's very true, actually.
Oh, amazing. So have you got anything else? You're writing and stuff. Have you got anything coming up, or?
I've got. We just had a short story announced for a publication called Close to Midnight, which is Flame Tree Press. It's Mark Morris's anthology. He does a yearly anthology of it's just like a general horror, weird fiction thing. That's coming up towards the middle of the year, and my story is called The Spaceman's Memory Box. It's about spacemen in council flats. So that's the first thing I've written in a long time, actually. The thing is, doing a PhD and being a games writer, kind of, that's the only downside of it, is it doesn't leave you with as much time to be creative. But I missed it. I missed writing stories. I'm definitely going to be trying to write a few more this year. It's just finding the time.
Yeah.
Well, if I end up without a job, I'll have plenty of time. Won't I?
Yes, you will. I've got so much. I've got a massive backlog of things to do and stuff. The one thing I've started doing is like I like painting miniatures and sort of things like that, and I've had this huge sort of kind of stress about not doing enough of that, but I do another podcast with a mate called the Hobby Hoarders podcast and stuff, and it's literally just about sort of painting and things like that. And we have a challenge now where we literally he basically goes, right, you're going to paint this and I'm going to paint this, and then we sort of challenge each other. So it forces me to do something all the time. So if I'm regimented, then I get things done. But it's just like
I'm the same.
So much stuff.
I need a normie person. I need to get my husband in on this. He's not normie, he's a geek. That's the problem. I need a normie secretary to help me keep on track with everything because I will just sit there and daydream otherwise.
I do. You procrastinate as well. So I've got so many things. Like I've
though you love doing something, do you find that like it's something you love doing, and you sit down and go, I'm going to do this thing that I love, and you don't do it? Yeah,
I think I do it all the time because it gets to the point where I've like, right, so today I could paint the rest of the dragon I'm doing, or I could do some D&D stuff that I need to do, or I could sort of do this while I could play my guitar, I could do all this stuff, and then I get to this point where I've got all these things that I could do, and then I just sit there and I watch something naff on TV.
Yeah, you just get overwhelmed by choice, don't you? A little bit. Like I could do all of this stuff, so I'm going to do none of it.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm the same. Yeah.
Yeah, and just like, oh my god, and then you feel really annoyed at yourself because you haven't done anything. Like today, I was quite impressed with myself because I did some laundry and I cleaned up a bit and did something a bit more productive and stuff. And it's just like, all the other things. Like I've got a Lego Death Star over there, which I've had for years, unmade, and I keep on telling myself, I'm going to do this, I'm going to make this thing.
Just send it to me, man. I'm
going to scream, I'm going to make it, and I'm just like, and I haven't done it yet, and it annoys me, it sits there and it mocks me every time I look at it, and it's just like, and I'm just like, I need to do this.
It's the scale of the task as well, because I bet a Lego Death Star, I made a Lego Millennium Falcon with my other half, and that was a big task.
Oh so yeah, I've got one, and that took me easily sort of 2 or 3 days to do. And stuff.
I bet a Death Star would take even longer.
Yeah, I'm just like, it's so long, but it's just like,
I've been doing the 7K. I've had the 7K essay I've had to do for an academic journal for months now, and literally the deadline is a week on Friday, and I've only just started it.
Yeah,
it was like my dissertation. When I did my dissertation for uni, we had a year to prepare for it and stuff. I did it in 3 days because I was more interested in drinking and going out in Manchester, and like I didn't need to do this. So I spent 3 days trying to jam all this stuff, doing 15,000 words and stuff, and I was just like, it was horrible.
I don't even want to tell you how I'm managing my PhD.
How many? Have you got like a word limit or?
No, not necessarily. No, it's sort of because it's a long project. I mean, I'm 2 years into a part-time PhD, which is going to be anywhere between 5 and 7 years, and it's just kind of I think you have X amount of chapters. I think that a PhD is on average 5 to 7 chapters, something along those lines, depending on what you're doing. So it's going to be around 100,000 words by the time you're done.
Whoa!
But that is over years. You're not doing that like a dissertation. I know you're sitting there. Ideally, you do it in a space of a few months. If you're like us, you do it in a few days. But but yeah, PhDs, there's a reason it takes as long as it does.
Yeah.
But I will probably cram it all into the last year.
I have so much respect for people who can go on to that and stuff. Like I moved on to a master's, and then realized that I wanted to be a rock and roll star and didn't really want to do that anymore. So I stopped halfway through and then just worked in a box factory and thought I was going to be a bloody rock star. And I was just like, my dad at the time was just like, knew it was going to happen. He told me beforehand, he says, like, you're not going to finish this. I'm definitely going to finish this. And then no, I just got, blown away. It's like, I'm playing guitar. My band's going to do this. We're going to be famous. We're going to be super rich. And I was like, no, that's
who needs a master's?
Yeah, who needs a master's? And then here I am.
Dr. Brian May, rock guitarist and astrophysicist.
Yeah, well, there you go.
True. Sorry, I'm not bored. I'm just tired. It's past my bedtime.
Yeah.
No, you're quite right. He's a very intelligent man.
Yeah. Loves badgers.
He does love badgers. He loves them so much. Well, who doesn't, to be fair?
Badgers, yeah.
Actually, I was down at our field, and there's a stone building on it. And looking around it one day, I went in the stone building, and there was a badger in the building. And now badgers can be vicious when cornered. So basically, we all just kind of stayed well back, left the door, and the badger just went charging through. It was like, and breathe again.
They don't look like much because they're quite small, aren't they, badgers? But they are, they can be vicious.
They're small, but they are solid,
powerful
muscle,
little things.
very powerful. Yeah. Very strong. And they are. Leave them be, they'll leave you be. You corner them, you pay the price.
Don't corner a badger. That's what we've learned tonight.
Don't corner a badger. Don't corner a badger.
Valuable life advice for everyone.
Life lesson.
Right, and that's a sound piece of advice. Don't corner a badger. You're learning here, ladies and gentlemen. We will leave that for there. So thank you very much, Laura. It's been an absolute pleasure again. Thank you very much. When the game does come out, let us know. Come back on.
I will.
We'll have a chat about it. And by all means, get your boss to send us a copy and we'll review it.
We will review, not just send us the copy.
I know. I will be in touch. Yeah, definitely.
Thank you. Excellent.
Thanks very much, everybody. Thanks for watching. Chris, cheers for the comment. Much appreciated. For myself, I've been Matt Geary. With me has been Peter Ray Allison.
Good evening, everyone.
And
Goodbye,
our guest. Nice one, Pete.
You had one job.
You had one job, Pete. Nice one. Peter Ray Allison.
Goodbye, everyone.
And Laura Mauro.
Good night, everyone.
Night.